The Bitcoin and crypto markets are on the brink of something monumental. Experts like Tapiero and Matt Hougan are predicting an explosive upside, with the next few years shaping up to be a super swell market where prices are set to soar. But why is this happening? In this video, Dan and Matt break down their expert analysis of the macro environment, revealing potential price points, when we can expect this surge, and exactly where this crypto boom is headed. Trust me, you don't want to miss these insights. But before we dive into all the juicy details from Dan and Matt, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear this, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel for your daily dose of Bitcoin and crypto updates. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you the latest, most valuable insights. Now, let's get straight to it. Dan's about to drop some game-changing insights.
I think it's very bullish. I mean, look, let's step back and think about this for a second. Bitcoin is, where is it today?
Around 95,000 last I checked.
95,000. So Bitcoin is at 95,000. The 2-year note is, call it, 3.7. All right. In 2021, the interest rate was 0. Okay? 0. And Bitcoin was 60,000 at the peak. So here we are today at 95,000. If we take short rates down, back to 0, I think Bitcoin would be probably closer to 300,000. Now, I don't think they're going to 0, just because the interest rate is a reflection of how much liquidity is being put into the system. And it's a whole bunch of other things, but this is just my back of the envelope guess. We take the 2-year note back down to around 2%. Bitcoin's at 180,000 with nothing else changed. So the fact that Bitcoin's at 95 with the interest rate here and the dollar down, only sort of 5% from, the last 6-month moving average is unbelievable. Like, it is super duper strong. I know looking at all the macro variables. So if you have a little more of a slowdown, you have this dollar weakening, you have the interest rates drop, just that alone, forget all the great fundamentals, all the new flow into Bitcoin, flow into Ethereum and Solana. To me, I see everything. Bitcoin is the leader. Bitcoin is the core asset. But I do see the other cryptocurrencies. Solana and Ethereum have gained network effect, but the other ones, are venture products, are venture investments. But this is a whole new world. It's still very early. I put this tweet out last night that got a little heat, but I think it's true. I mean, on mainland China, Bitcoin is still banned. And in Europe, I would say Europe is still pretty hostile to Bitcoin generally. I mean, it's certainly not open. So you have 2/3 of the entire world GDP from an economic perspective, from a wealth perspective. They're not really supportive. And the US is. So I don't know. It's like, imagine if we had the other 2/3 of the world actually like being supportive. Where would this thing go? I just think 95 is a great, it's a much stronger price than people understand.
You said that Bitcoin could go to $180,000 there. What's the timeline on that?
I think within a year. I mean, I hate, this is the most difficult market to trade of all time. So I mean, cryptocurrency generally. So I think to put too fine a point on it, you're potentially doing some damage to yourself. I think 180 is very reasonable within the next year, based on the macro, based on the micro, based on developments, in the digital asset world, growth in, DeFi and RWAs, stables, all those things, they have a flow over effect. I don't believe that it's just Bitcoin and then everything else should be 0. I think everything feeds off each other. And so I've never seen interest as high in the space ever before. And now we've got a US administration that is frankly like downright bullish and pushing for growth, pushing for regulatory clarity. And you know, with our funds, I've invested in 23 companies that are growth stage companies in the space, companies generally making sort of 40, 50 million in revenue or higher. We have, I think, 3 to 5 companies that could be public this year. And so from my perspective, I think, let's say within a year, I really do believe that the way the US becomes the crypto blockchain capital of the world, which is what Trump wants, is to get the more developed, respected, polished companies listed in the United States. I think it's very important. I know, I think eventually all things of value will be put on a blockchain. I think that's maybe 5-10 years away, but equity is not going away. Equity, the concept of having equity and being a shareholder of a company that produces revenue in this digital asset ecosystem, that's not going away. I think we have a chance now to become the single place where every crypto business comes public. And I'm speaking my own boat completely, but I believe this from the founding of my fund. This is what I've always thought.
Dan, the last thing I'm going to ask you before we wrap it up here is on crypto companies going public in the US, there was a lot of excitement at the beginning of the year. A lot of people calling this year the year of the crypto IPO. Now we're hearing some companies maybe taking a step back, kind of waiting to see what happens when it comes to regulation and legislation in the US. Are we going to see as many companies go public this year as we thought we were going to in January?
Well, I would say the answer, X the tariff, bumpiness, I would have said yes. The tariff bumpiness and some of the uncertainty brought on by the government policies, Doge, and the aggressive nature of them, I think it just backloads it. I think it goes. I don't think the number goes down. It just gets pushed off a few months. And they've announced a lot of these companies that we own, Circle and eToro. There's been talk about Figure. Kraken's been in the news for early next year. So I think that these companies, they're making hundreds of millions of revenue. There's a backlog of companies that should be public because of the bear phase that kicked in 22 and 23. But the reality is this, and I say this often, I don't know anything with a 99% degree of certainty. Really. But I know one thing, with a 99% degree of certainty, within the next 5 years, Coinbase will not be the only large public crypto blockchain company in the world. And that's what it is today. Can you imagine? We've got $4 trillion of value sitting in the digital asset ecosystem between all the cryptocurrencies, all the companies. And we have one company, Coinbase, that has a market cap of 60 billion. That's it. That's public. The public, I think, wants to own cash flowing businesses that are in this space, that are active in all these various areas. I mean, stable coins alone, just think about this. 4 years ago, we're essentially at zero. And last year, there was $10 trillion of stable coins settled. So I don't know, if I'm an investor out there, and especially an American investor, and I'm looking for growth, I'm thinking, how many things go from 0 to 10 trillion in 4 years? Like, not a lot. And I think the vibrancy and the dynamism in the space, I think there's huge demand for it from, public market investors. And so that's why I don't really see, you slow this thing down, but I don't see any, diminution in the interest.
In other exciting news, Matt Hougan is doubling down on Dan Tapiero's powerful prediction. At the PCM conference, he reinforces the idea of an incoming super bull market that could send Bitcoin and the entire crypto space soaring. This isn't just talk. Matt breaks down the key factors behind this massive upside, and you won't want to miss his take. Take a listen, because what Matt says next could change how you see the next 24 months in crypto.
4-year cycle? Is it over?
Yeah.
Woo! It's
Whoa.
over.
Okay, hold on. Explain.
It doesn't matter. Yes, there may be this natural thing, but it's just going to get bulldozed over. I think 2025 will be a great year. I think 2026 will be a great year. I think 2027 will be a great year. And we'll see about 2028.
Wait, no market cycles? That's a bold claim. Let's dive deeper with Matt Hougan and find out what he really means.
What causes the cycle historically is this sort of, you get a catalyst, you get a buildup of momentum, you have a halving, you get a lot of excitement, the market gets a little over levered, and then there's a negative setback and we pull back and restart.
Okay.
And that I think will still happen. Like investors are still greedy, the markets will go up, they'll get over levered, they'll get cleaned out. That will still happen. But the point I was making at Palms conference is you have this other thing, which is effectively the US government has made crypto legal. It's allowed large financial institutions to move into the space. It's removed a huge regulatory overhang. And we're just in the early stages of realizing what that means. And what it means is there's trillions of dollars of capital and the smartest financial minds in the world coming into this market. And that's just a bigger deal. So will there still be this ripple? Yes, but you'll just lose it amidst this massive tidal wave of institutional interest. This is the cycle, if you want to use the word, where crypto goes mainstream, where institutions move into the space. And that's just such a bigger deal than what's historically caused these cycles in crypto. It's just too big a force to deny.
Anything that you're watching this year you think that will really start to maybe ignite this?
I think we've already seen it on Bitcoin. So on Bitcoin, you have this fundamental supply-demand mismatch where you have institutions, corporations, and governments moving into the space. And that's the reason why Bitcoin has outperformed even tech stocks. Usually during volatile market periods, Bitcoin underperforms. You're seeing it outperform because it's already into this institutional phase. For the rest of the market, for Ethereum on down, to get into this phase, I'm really looking towards legislation moving through Congress on first stablecoins and then market structure. Those are the two all clear signals that the largest financial institutions in the world can move into the space beyond Bitcoin. And I think if we get this, which many people think we will get before the August congressional recess, I think that will be what catalyzes us and moves us forward.
All right, with that being said, because we're getting into kind of the regulatory environment right there, and you're talking about the Trump administration, their first 100 days in office are now pretty much on cue. What would you give President Trump and the administration in terms of a score on their first 100 days? What do you feel?
I can't give them one score, Paul. It's like the best of times and the worst of times. So from a crypto specific perspective, I would give them something in the mid to high 90s. They've delivered on their core promises to crypto. You've seen the SEC shut down multiple lawsuits that were hamstringing the industry. You've seen the FDIC shut down Operation Choke Point 2.0, which was restricting crypto companies' access to banking. You've seen a White House executive order making the growth of digital assets a national priority and establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve and a crypto asset stockpile. Those were all sort of crazy dreams to have a year ago, and they've all happened. The other score, however, is they've introduced a lot of shocks into the economy. I know that we're sort of smoothing out from the initial tariff tantrum, but they have introduced a lot of uncertainty and volatility into the market, and that's what's kept these assets from rising to the upside. So maybe it's like a 95 from crypto and then a lower score from the broader macro economy, and those have netted out to where we are today. But generally speaking, I'm hugely optimistic. The most important thing for crypto is that crypto regulatory setting, and that's just gone exceedingly well. So I'm very positive.
And that's a wrap for today's deep dive. What do you think about Dan Tapiero's ultra bullish Bitcoin prediction? And how about Matt Hougan's game-changing claim that the age of crypto cycles is officially over? That's not just bold, it could completely reshape how we look at this market. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Are we really heading into a super cycle, or is this just another hype wave? Before you go, do me a quick favor. Smash that like button. If you got value today, share this video with someone who's riding the crypto wave with you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of insight, prediction, or strategy from the world of Bitcoin and crypto. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.